Hello friends. This is episode 3 of our series on water, solar energy, and green hydrogen. Today we deal with water scarcity in the Middle East, a chronic condition exacerbated by climate change. In light of the attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, the 452nd anniversary of the Battle of Lepanto, which is the day of the Feast of Our Lady of the Rosary, a pragmatic re-examination of the intractable Israeli-Palestinian conflict is in order. This is neither fishing in troubled waters nor meddling in other people's affairs. Their respective political, religious, and military alignments are such that it could potentially threaten the rest of us. Accordingly, anyone who can contribute ideas conducive to the prevention of a conflagration of that magnitude is entitled to speak out. Presidents Biden, Putin, and Xi, among many others, support efforts conducive to a two-state solution. United Nations Resolutions 181 and 242 and the Oslo II Accord do so as well. Resolution 181 divided Great Britain's former Palestinian mandate into Jewish and Arab states effective May 1948. Incidentally, Israel had not existed as an independent state since 63 BCE, when Roman general Pompey the Great captured Jerusalem. On November 22, 1967, in the wake of the Six-Day War, Security Council Resolution 242 laid out the principles for a just peace. Namely Israeli withdrawal from the occupied territories and settlement of the refugee problem. Instead, not only does Israel continue to occupy the West Bank, in 1980 it absorbed East Jerusalem and declared that Jerusalem, whole and united, is the capital of Israel. In terms of global opinion, as of July 31, 2019, 138 of the 193 United Nations member states, including original BRICS countries Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, recognize the State of Palestine. Notably, the United States recognizes the Palestine Liberation Organization as the legitimate representative entity for the Palestinian people. However, it does not recognize a State of Palestine. 165 countries recognize Israel, including the aforementioned BRICS countries. What follows is a suggestion on how to break their ancient impasse based on the assumption that both Israelis and Palestinians would rather live in separate neighboring states than die fighting. And that as a result, any and all disputes can and must be resolved by dialogue. If they concur, then it is possible to settle all outstanding issues, including water rights, religious aspects, and reciprocal security. If they don't, then there's no way of knowing how their saga will evolve. Accordingly, barring a new Holocaust for either or both of Carthaginian proportions, the way forward is a comprehensive peace process conducive to a two-state solution. And that begins with an immediate ceasefire based on the obvious principles that only enemies can make peace with each other, and that more than enough innocent lives have already been lost. Let their cherished memory be the conduit to a peaceful but necessary divorce. By way of a pertinent caveat, not even Rome in its heyday was able to win all its battles. Water is a human right. In the arid Middle East, and more specifically in Israel, Jordan, and Palestine, it's very scarce. Studies show that the Dead Sea is desiccating at a rate of 1 meter per year and that it may entirely disappear by 2050. In addition, natural population growth and climate change are slated to overwhelm the meager freshwater resources in the area. As of 2022, Israel draws and desalinates 75% of its drinking water from the Mediterranean Sea. In addition, it recycles nearly 90% of its wastewater for agricultural purposes. These are peerless achievements. But it also means that the other 25% comes from natural precipitation, the headwaters of the Jordan River, and the mountain aquifer. A high-quality underground reservoir shared by Israel and the West Bank. While the aquifer is the sole remaining water resource for Palestine, it's also critically important to Israel. And there is a catch. Its estimated annual recharge rate is in dispute. At the time of the Oslo II Agreement of September 13, 1993, a joint team of Israeli and Palestinian water experts agreed that the annual yield of the aquifer was 632 million cubic meters. However, subsequent water withdrawal has substantially exceeded the yield, even as population growth in Israel and the West Bank, and climate change, will add to the aquifer's stress. In sum, a lasting peace depends on the creation of a viable sovereign Palestinian state alongside Israel. At a minimum, that will require a new proprietary drought-proof source of water capable of meeting Palestinian demand now and in the future. Should Israelis, Palestinians, and their respective sponsors concur, this suggestion envisions a four-phase process to permanently solve the water dispute. In Phase 1, the Gaza Strip and its population would be swapped for a territory of equivalent size anchored on Eilat. Israel would acquire a contiguous Mediterranean coast from Lebanon to Egypt and the opportunity to remold Gaza to its liking. Palestine would get instant relief from the blockade, unimpeded access to the Red Sea, and a city with superior infrastructure adjacent to kindred Arabic-speaking neighbors. In Phase 2, Israel and the Palestinians would swap the West Bank for a territory of equivalent size in the Negev desert that would merge with, but not be instead of, the aforementioned Phase 1 area. Israel would formally annex all of the West Bank, including the mountain aquifer, and the Palestinians would get the Negev, Eilat, and a portion of the west shore of the Dead Sea. There are precedents for such swaps of population and land. One involved the Soviet Union, Poland, and Germany at the end of World War II. Phase 3 would address the allocation of water. As Phases 1 and 2 would give the Palestinians a parched, bone-dry desert, they would need immediate simultaneous compensation. Since Israel would own and control all the freshwater resources, it would temporarily continue to supply the Palestinians with a volume of water equal to what the latter have historically been extracting from the aquifer. Phase 4 has an antecedent. A now-defunct plan to build a conduit from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea proposed to pump some 200 million cubic meters of Red Sea water northward along the Israel-Jordanian border. 80 million would have been desalinized at a facility in Aqaba, Jordan. 30 to 50 million would have been allocated to Israel for use in Urava and Eilat, 30 million to Jordan for its southern region, and 32 million to the Palestinian Authority. The plan envisioned stopping the desiccation of the Red Sea by pumping the resulting brine. According to an article published in the Los Angeles Times on May 6, 2007, the cost of a 125-mile pipeline, or 201 kilometers from the Gulf of Aqaba to the Dead Sea, would at that time have been $1 billion. Factoring in inflation, that would be $1.48 billion in 2023. In addition, there were plans for a $1.5 billion power plant, or $2.22 billion in 2023 dollars for use by Jordan, Israel, and the Palestinians. A modern 1.5 gigawatts power station can cost between $3 to $4 billion. Accordingly, a conservative estimate for that project would amount to $7.5 billion in 2023 dollars. Phase 4 differs radically from the conduit in that it would gradually make Palestine and Jordan self-sufficient in water. At that point, it would free Israel from the obligation to supply Palestine with water as described in Phase 3. Palestinian self-sufficiency would be attained by carving a sea-level canal from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea, deep and wide enough to accommodate two supertankers sailing in opposite directions. While an undertaking of this magnitude is unprecedented, today's earth-moving equipment could get it done. On completion, the entire Dead Sea basin, not just the Dead Sea itself, would become an extension of the Gulf of Aqaba. Needless to say, that would stop the Dead Sea's desiccation, bring life into it, make Jerusalem a port, and permanently submerge Jericho. Palestine would share the western shoreline with Israel, and Jordan would get the entire eastern shore. Critically, all three would have room to build not one but several proprietary desalination and hydrogen-producing plants powered by solar energy, which is free, plentiful, and constant in the area. Jordan and Palestine in particular would have the opportunity to radically improve their economic outlook by becoming exporters of green hydrogen. The new canal might look like a cross between the Corinth Canal, hemmed by spectacular cliffs, and the Bosporus Strait. The latter features a less saline surface current flowing from north to south, and a more saline submerged countercurrent flowing in the opposite direction. If replicated, these currents would likely lower the Dead Sea's salinity. At a minimum, this suggestion merits a feasibility study by experts in all its related disciplines. In addition to solving the elusive water and peace issues, it could create thousands of jobs in agriculture, production of green hydrogen, construction, tourism, commerce, and other fields of endeavor. Further, if replicated in other promising natural depressions around the world, it would mitigate the effect of rising seas. In nominal terms, the cost of this project would likely exceed the conduit by several orders of magnitude. But however higher it might be, it should be far less than the cost and grief of chronic wars. The project would be self-funding because the green hydrogen and solar power plants could together amortize their apportioned debt over time, just as Hoover Dam did so over a period of 50 years. Since many world leaders are on the record supporting a two-state solution, this might be a perfect opportunity for them to follow through. For example, China, which is known to produce quality low-cost solar panels, is in the midst of building the world's largest hydrogen plant, and, according to Reuters, German project developer Conjuncta has signed a memorandum of understanding with Mauritania, Egypt's energy provider Infinity, and the United Arab Emirates master for a $34 billion green hydrogen project in the African country. Such events confirm the strong budding global demand for green hydrogen. Accordingly, China, Europe, Japan, India and others who are net importers of fossil fuels might wish to contribute to peace in the Middle East by investing in these proposed green hydrogen plants. As for Jerusalem, everyone should have safe and unimpeded access to all places of worship.